President Jacob Zuma will be travelling to Lyon in France to co-chair the official launch of the United Nations High-Level Commission on Health, Employment and Economic Growth on Wednesday. For more on the story, we're now across live to our reporter Dan Whitehead, who's currently in London ahead of his trip to Lyon. Thanks for joining us, Dan. Just get us up to date. What is this meeting, this commission? What is it about?
Well, basically, the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, asked President Jacob Zuma, alongside the French President François Hollande, to start, as you say, this high-level commission. It's got a fancy title, this Health, Employment and Economic Growth High-Level Commission. Ban Ki-moon asked these two leaders to set this up, and this is really the first official launch and the meeting of that commission. What it's about is creating opportunities for jobs within the health sector in mainly developing countries, but in all countries around the world. It comes off the back of research by the World Health Organization, which says that by 2030 an extra 40 million job opportunities will be created in the health sector. That's down to an ageing population, growth population and an ageing health workforce. And it's really just to boost economies in developing nations and say that actually we should embrace this issue of ageing populations and health concerns and say actually economically for developing countries this could be a way to create growth, to create jobs and to create money for those developing economies.
All right, so who's the President travelling with and who's part of this commission?
Well, the President, as I say, will be meeting on Wednesday with the French President Hollande. That is where the high-level meeting and launch of this commission takes place. They will be joined by some 23 commissioners who are representing lots of other governments from around the world. They're also representing civil society groups, businesses, healthcare organisations from the World Health Organization and so forth. In terms of who President Zuma is travelling up with, he will be joined by a number of business people as well, the chairperson of the AU Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, and Donald Kaberuka, the former president of the African Development Bank. He'll also be joined from the cabinet with the International Relations Minister, Nkosi Mashabane, of course, and the Department of Health Director, Precious Matsoso. Those two will be joining Jacob Zuma's delegation as he arrives in Lyon tomorrow.
So President Zuma, the lead man, but I guess then, from the sound of it, great expectations for the entire continent on this commission.
Yeah, absolutely. And the French side, certainly, Hollande will be looking to President Zuma yet again off the success of COP21 and the lead that South Africa took there on behalf of the African continent. Hollande will be looking for President Zuma to do the same in terms of the wider continent in spearheading this commission over the next few months. In terms of what happens, it is likely that President Zuma and Hollande will meet with those co-chairs as well in September in New York for another meeting. That's on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, the 71st UN General Assembly. And after that, they do have a deadline by the end of December this year. Ban Ki-moon wants that report from Zuma and Hollande and the delegations as to exactly what should be done to create these new healthcare jobs.
Is there any reason why these two in particular were chosen, President Hollande and President Zuma, by Ban Ki-moon?
Nothing publicly said, but I think off the back, as I say, of the success of COP21, with South Africa really spearheading and tying up a lot of the nations across Africa, the success of that implementation, and South Africa, of course, being a developing nation and also requiring this growth. President Zuma himself, in the presidential statement on this, said that South Africa is one of those developing nations which needs to do more to create those healthcare jobs. So I think in terms of that continent and François Hollande, I think Ban Ki-moon sees it as a good match in terms of bringing those continents together to raise the profile of this issue. Two senior worldwide leaders who can get attention on a worldwide platform to push the agenda forward. And quite a tight deadline, as I say, to get that report done by December to fill a gap of 40 million new healthcare jobs, which is being created over the next decade or so, is quite a big ask.
All right, and I'm sure that whilst the conference of the Commission is quite focused on the work that it's doing, South Africa certainly might not want to miss an opportunity to talk trade even.
Absolutely, and of course that is what we have seen from the South African government over the last few weeks. Here in London, I've spoken to the Finance Minister, I've spoken to the Mining Minister, I will speak to President Zuma this week. The Cabinet and the senior government officials are on show at what is a difficult time for the South African economy, no denying that. And of course, President Zuma will be taking this opportunity to reassure Francois Hollande and the senior delegations from all sides, and including those civil groups and businesses, about the stability which he says is maintained within South Africa. So there will certainly be trade talks, and an opportunity will not be missed by the President to offer that stability and reassurance, I would imagine.
All right, Dan Whitehead, that's where we're going to leave it for tonight, but I'm sure we'll be chatting to you as this commission and this gathering gets together. That's Dan Whitehead, our correspondent, who's currently in London, but will be travelling to Lyon in France tomorrow to catch up with this visit by President Zuma and his counterpart, the French President, Francois